After a couple of bigger video projects, it's nice to relax a bit with a calmer, more straightforward challenge. King of Pain, which is not some weird sequel to 50 Shades of Grey, but rather a fairly painless scenario, surprisingly enough. This is a medium-sized map with a fairly decent number of things going on. In the northwest, we find Red, who has a relatively large area to explore. All mines are present, but kinda spread out, which is not ideal for build-up play. We can also find several dwellings up to tier 4 and a decent amount of resources spread around as well. But as we can also see, the side zones are blocked by green quest guards, and there is no green keymaster in Red's zone. In the southwest, we find Orange a bit more cramped up. All the same riches can be found here, just in a tighter space, and the only side zone they have access to is blocked by a light blue border guard, with no keymaster present either. In the southeast, we find Blue, who has a comparable zone to Red, a bit larger and more spread out compared to Orange, but no side zone access at all. Instead, the roads only lead to the focal point of this scenario, the middle zone, where most of the magic happens. Here, we find 2 neutral towns with town halls, mage guild level 1s, and dwellings up to level 4 pre-built. Very handy. We find dwellings, mostly tier 1 and 2s, but also one tier 7 dwelling native to each of the neutral towns. We find artifacts aplenty, even up to a random relic guarded by a mere tier 5 creature. We find Seers huts obsessed with the number 12 for some reason, giving out 15k gold if you live up to their expectations. We find creature banks handing out resources like candy. And we also find 3 keymasters tents, a red, light blue and a green one, giving access to the rich side zones. The northeast one is too far out of the way to even be considered, which is a shame because it has 2 random relics just laying around, among other things. The western side zone is much smaller and much poorer, but still has 1 tier 7 creature dwelling native to red and 1 native to orange. And it also connects the 2 colors should you visit both the green and light blue keymasters. All of this gives this scenario a bunch of different ways to play. At first, I considered playing red, going for the keymasters with 1 hero, opening up the path to orange for another hero, and then conduct a 2-pronged attack, taking advantage of the roadside dwellings with the second hero. But it was kinda slow, plus it also bled a little bit too much army. Secondly, I considered playing orange and running straight for the southern middle town, using the creatures from the pre-built dwellings, hire a second hero, and again conduct a 2-pronged attack. Which is not a bad strat, just a bit slower than what I ended up doing. Which is a very similar strategy, but playing red instead, sending a hero to the middle and use the extra army to attack both blue and orange at the same time. But why red over orange, or blue for that matter? Simply because red's territory is so large, the chance of meeting them on the road is very small, making the probability of me having to chase them around much higher. And I don't really want that. And which faction am I playing? Well, I've said for a long time that if you want the best times, play conflicts. I often avoid conflicts to mix it up a bit, but it's been a while since the last I played them, so I figured, why not? So I'm playing red conflicts Passes, who's not gonna be my main hero, but I have a plan. Check. Blue and orange set to Necro as it's a melee heavy faction, which is very good for conflicts. Check. Gold bonus for all, as gold is always important. Check. We're blasting off again. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. In order to find my preferred seed, I enter the northeast Sulphur Dune Guard fight and reset 3 times. This gives me the dream Conflicts Tavern, Monair and Luna. Passes leaves all but 1 pixie in town and rides straight down to acquire 3 chests worth of gold, which nets me 6k in total. And a pile of ore, which I really don't care about. I then hire Luna instead of Monair, for reasons you'll see later, upgrade the magic lantern, upgrade all the pixies to sprites, and buy out all sprites available in town, while also leaving the air elementals before Luna swings by the learning stone, getting advanced wisdom and +1 spell power, which is always amazing for her firewall damage. On day 2, Passes heads north to get more resources, while Luna reaches the first fight of the scenario, a pack of iron golems blocking the road to the middle. These lads take 50% reduced magic damage, so Luna's firewall won't be all that great here. Instead, I take advantage of the sprites' speed and no retaliation ability to kite the slow golems around. The main kiting strategy is to capitalize on the golems' right side pathing, as they always move closer to the battlefield edge on the right compared to the left, making creating enough distance to wait with the sprites to get free hits in much easier. But thanks to a lucky morale, all this brilliant planning goes to waste. But no complaints. Afterwards, Luna finds a scholar who teaches her more about spell power, taking her up to 5. Not bad. The next day, Passis finds some wood, 2k gold from a chest, and more wood, before riding back south. Luna, on the other hand, has more important business to do. The Naga Bank. A rather small one, thankfully, but 15 Nagas in total. Auto loses, which is not a surprise, but I know what I'm doing. I move 2 hexes to the right on turn 1 in order for the Nagas to get a bit more clumped up. Then I cast the first firewall below the bottom left Naga stack and fly down to bait them through the fire, which kills 2, and the sprites take a nasty but necessary hit. I then create a nice fire line and fly away with the sprites, luring every stack through at least one part of the wall, taking out the first stack. A third wall then kills the second stack, while the 3 remaining stacks are quite small, so I cast another wall and watch 2 stacks cremate themselves, before I use my final cast to make sure the last Naga stack also dies. Luna sure is OP. This nets me 6k gold and 12 gems, but the gold is way more important. And Luna can then just barely reach the southern middle town afterwards, letting Otto beat the Harpy guards. I then use the wood Passis found to build a tavern, which lets me hire Monair, who takes all of the dungeon army in town and heads for Orange. Accepting the somewhat poor auto results in order to save time on the way, swings by the rallying flag before eventually finding the Orange Zone Guard. Wars. Otto wins, only losing Trogs, which is more than acceptable. And Monair enters Orange territory, seeing Nagash nearby having only few walking dead. Pathetic. The last Trog is then dismissed, and back in the dungeon town, I hire Oris, even though she has worse stats than Fiona, just because of the goblin speed, which gives her more movement. She gets all the pixies, except 1, and sprites before heading out, finding one of the blue zone guards, another pack of iron golems. 1 stack more than the other fight, and also more friendly creatures to be mindful of. But to be honest, since we've already seen a very similar fight, we can just fast forward through this one. Next up in the way, lots of wolf riders. But if you pay attention, you notice I very stupidly don't visit the Fountain of Youth for extra movement, which is really silly of me. Anyway, wolfy boys, get ready. I wait with the sprites and send the pixies up to snuggle with them. This splits the wolf riders up, letting the sprites take out both of the 7 stacks in 2 fell swoops. The wolf riders, again, split up, so I get another hit in with the sprites, leaving 1 alive. So I send the pixies in as bait, not even losing 1 to the wolf rider hit, surprisingly, and eventually taking out the last stack with the sprites. A very good fight. On the AI turn, Nagash blazes by Monair, but another orange hero, Vokial, attacks. Otto loses, but this is a very winnable fight, due to the extremely favorable terrain. Spoiler, this is gonna end up as a kiting session of epic proportions. First victim on my list is the white stack, which takes a fair few hits from all my creatures to take out, eventually falling to a beholder retaliation. Next up on my hit list are the Walking Dead, even though they are mostly harmless. It's much easier to kite 1 stack than 2, no matter how weak stack 2 is. The Medusas and the Air Elementals focus the Walking Dead, while the Beholders attack the Skeletons. After the Walking Dead are, well, basically even more dead, the real kiting begins. After quite a bit of time, I start sacrificing the Medusas and Air Elementals. Not out of necessity, but because I literally couldn't be bothered kiting with all 3 stacks, as it's a pain in the butt. All I need to win this fight is the Beholder stack, so after walking the Skeletons around and around and around and around and around the terrain, gaining a single hex each round, taking out 6 to 7 skeletons with each shot. I finally get the final hit in on turn 41. Quick and easy. On day 4, I let Luna out of the dungeon in order to find some more gold for my stash, and she does not disappoint, getting gold from 3 chests, netting me a total of 7,500 gold. Passis uses his movement for literally no reason, while Oris penetrates the blue territory, finding the blue town fairly reasonably guarded. And who is that guarding? The return of Uncle Sandro? The future is now, old man. It's time to die. Again. The old man has slow, unfortunately, which is kind of a pain in the ass, but I guess good old Uncle Sandro is the king of pain. I just really wanted to have the scenario title in somehow. Anyway, after a couple of rounds of slowing, I haste my sprites in order to get a free hit in, before the 10 pixies die to a white hit. From this point on, the catapult becomes extremely important, as it's like a flame to moths for the AI. But I realize my mistake in hasting the sprites earlier on turn 5, noticing I actually can't get out of the reach of the Walking Dead after Sandro slows the sprites again. So I have to lose a few of them. Still, 41 should be enough, but a bit of a lazy play by me. Afterwards, I can use the budget Harpy Hag strategy of waiting one turn, fly into hit, and fly out the next turn, to slowly whittle Sandro's forces down, while the catapult is slowly dismantled. In the end, the catapult capitulates a bit too early, forcing the sprites to take a hit from the severely damaged white stack. But it's no big deal, as the remaining imps can be finished off in 2 hits from the now 36 sprites. Really not a great fight, but a win is a win. Unfortunately, blue isn't vanquished, and it's kind of a lottery where the remaining hero, usually only one, is. As the southern skeleton dwelling isn't flagged, I deduce they have to be north. So I hire Theodorus, give him the sprites, and go northeast, crossing my fingers. Thankfully, finding Torosar right there. Very lucky. I split the sprites into 3 stacks of 12 and just go for it. Otto wins, a bit surprisingly, so I just watch him do it. Torosar always has Magic Arrow and a Ballista 7 out of 8 times, making him a bit tricky to beat with only sprites. So it's quite nice to see Otto win. Not much strategy going on here, like usual, but it ends with a nice and comfortable win. Blue is now vanquished, only orange left. Monair rides further into orange's zone, ignoring Nagash, finding their town unguarded. I check their tavern to make sure Nagash is the only hero, before hiring a hero in the dungeon town, as it should be easier to reach from there due to the rallying flag. But Fiona, our newest member, has no army, which could be an issue. So, back in the orange necro town, I hire Adelaide, give her the beholders, and she's 1 tile off. Bollocks. I check with Fiona, a couple of tiles off as well. But after getting extra movement from the flag, she can literally just barely reach. Adelaide can then ride over and give the beholders to Fiona, who can take on Nagash. A manual fight finish is appropriate, I think. So, after letting the single Walking Dead move, I snipe them, taking out Nagash. Orange is vanquished, I'm victorious. In just 4 days. Not too shabby. 448 score and Archangel rank? That's business as usual. Originally, I had a 5-day run, but after letting this scenario simmer in my mind a bit, I found this nice solution. So I'm satisfied. I think this should be difficult to beat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. A like, comment and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. You can also become a channel member for earlier access to my videos, if that sounds good to you. I hope to see you next time, and that you have a might and magically good day. Bye bye. And as always, a huge thank you to all my channel members for your continued support. I really appreciate it. And an extra special shout out to my Ballista members, Escubani, Van Lunis, Rick Vissout, Lika, Kat, and CJ. Thank you all very much.